Hello everyone, today is February the 19th. This article taken from WND website. Media ignoring one crucial factor in Florida school shooting by David Kuplian. Here we go again. A horrific mass shooting occurs. Everyone is in shock and grief. Democrats blame guns and Republicans. Pundits urge the public, if you see something, say something, and everyone asks why. As information about the perpetrator emerges, a relative confides to a newspaper that the troubled youth who committed the mass murder was on psychiatric medications. You know, those powerful, little understood, mind-altering drugs with fearsome side effects, including suicidal ideation and even homicidal ideation. Yet, the predictable response from the press is always the same. Not only a lack of curiosity, but disdain for any who ask the question, as though connecting psychiatric meds to mass shootings is pursuing a conspiracy theory. Here's a good way to tell whether or not something is a conspiracy theory. If it's true, it's not a conspiracy theory. In the case of Nicholas Cruz, the 19-year-old Florida mass murder, his mother's sister, Barbara Kombatovich, told the Miami Herald that she believed Cruz was on medication to deal with his emotional fragility. This is strikingly similar to reports right after the 2013 school massacre in Newtown, which, let's don't go there on that one. I don't know that happened. I'm only talking about psychiatric medications and shootings. So I'm going to scroll down to that. What do you think? Why do media avoid reporting mass shooters' meds? Sound off in today's WND poll. But there was little journalistic curiosity or follow-up, and one wonders whether that will be the case this time around. But you may well be asking, why is this issue of psychiatric medications even important? Fact: a disturbing number of perpetrators of school shootings and similar mass murders in our modern era were either on or just recently coming off of psychiatric medications. A few of the most high-profile examples out of many others include Columbine, Patrick Purdy in Stockton, California, 1989, Kip Kinkle, 15, murdered his parents in 1998. The next day went to school. Thurston High in Springfield, Oregon, and opened fire on his classmates, killing 2 and wounding 22. He had been prescribed both Prozac and Ritalin. In 1988, I'm just going to read the event and the drug. Lori Dan, school shooting rampage, second grade classroom, taking anafranil as well as lithium, long used to treat mania. Paducah, Kentucky, 1997, 14-year-old Michael Carneal, killing 3 and leaving another paralyzed, reportedly was on Ritalin. 2005, 16-year-old Jeff Weiss, Prozac. Another famous case, 47-year-old Joseph T. Westbecker, killing workers at Standard Graver Corporation in Louisville, Kentucky. Prozac. Kurt Danish, 18, shot his own father, 1996. A little more than 2 weeks after starting Prozac. Danish's description of his own mental emotional state at the time of the murder is chilling. I didn't realize it until after it was done, Danish said. This might sound weird, but it felt like I had no control of what I was doing, like I was left there just holding a gun. John Hinckley took 4 Valium. Andrea Yates, drowned her children, heard inner voices, Satan telling her to do it. Murderous thoughts, homicidal ideation as a result of taking just one brand of antidepressant drug, Effexor. Effexor is White's best-selling drug, by the way, which in one recent study brought in over $3 billion in sales, accounting for almost a fifth of the company's annual reviews. One more case is instructive, that of 12-year-old Christopher Pittman, who struggled in court to explain why he murdered his grandparents, who had provided the only love and stability he'd ever known in his turbulent life. When I was lying in my bed that night, he testified, I couldn't sleep because my voice in my head kept echoing through my mind and telling me to kill them. Christopher had been angry with his grandfather, who had disciplined him earlier that day for hurting another student during a fight on the school bus, so later that night he shot both of his grandparents in the head with a .410 shotgun as they slept, and then burned down their South Carolina home where he had lived with them. I got up, I got the gun, I went upstairs and pulled the trigger, he recalled. The whole thing was like watching your favorite TV show. You know what is going to happen, but you can't do anything to stop it. Pittman's lawyers later would argue that the boy had been a victim of involuntary intoxication, since his doctors had him taking the antidepressants Paxil and Zoloft just prior to the murders. Paxil's known adverse drug reactions, according to the drug's FDA-approved label, include mania, insomnia, anxiety, agitation, confusion, amnesia, depression, paranoid reaction, psychosis, hostility, delirium, hallucinations, abnormal thinking, depersonalization, and lack of emotion, among others. The preceding examples are only a few of the best-known offenders who had been taking prescribed psychiatric drugs before committing their violent crimes. There are many others. Whether we like to admit it or not, it is undeniable that when certain people living on the edge of sanity take psychiatric medications, those drugs can and occasionally do push them over the edge into violent madness. Remember, every single SSRI antidepressant sold in the United States of America today, no matter what brand is manufactured, bears a black box FDA warning label, the government's most serious drug warning, of increased risk of suicidal thinking and behavior, known as suicidality in young adults ages 18 to 24. Common sense tells us that where there are suicidal thoughts, especially in very angry person, homicidal thoughts may not be far behind. Indeed, the mass shooters we are describing often take their own lives when the police show up, have planned their suicide ahead of time. Never lost a lawsuit. Pharmaceutical manufacturers are understandably nervous about publicly connecting their highly lucrative drugs to murderous violence, which may be why we rarely, if ever, hear any confirmation to those first-day reports from grief-stricken relatives who confide to journalists that the perpetrator was taking psychiatric drugs. After all, who are, by far, the biggest sponsors of TV news? Pharmaceutical companies, and they don't want any free publicity of this sort. The truth is, to avoid costly settlements and public reaction catastrophes such as when GlaxoSmithKline was ordered to pay millions of dollars to the family of 60-year-old Donald Schell, who murdered his wife, daughter, and granddaughter in a fit of rage shortly after starting on Paxil, drug companies' legal teams have quietly and skillfully settled hundreds of cases out of court, shelling out hundreds of millions of dollars to plaintiffs. Pharmaceutical giant Eli Lilly fought scores of legal claims against Prozac in this way, settling for cash before the complaint could go to court, while stipulating that the settlement remained secret, and then claiming it had never lost a Prozac lawsuit. Which brings us back to the key questions. When are we going to get official confirmation as to whether Nicholas Cruz, like so many other mass shooters, had been taking psychiatric drugs? Well, there you have it. I'm sure there's much more information out on the web about the link between psychiatric medications and shoot-'em-ups. Have a great day, everyone.